Dr. Disrespect gets disrespected. Devs continue to praise PlayStation 5 and your daily gaming news recap. All that and more coming right up. Welcome back to Sodi Pop right here on YouTube. Today is Monday, June 29th. I'm Matty and this is Chatty with Matty, your source for the daily gaming news recap. Have my drink? Let's discuss. All right, to start with, we're going to head right into Bloomberg announcing a big budget Harry Potter game. So Bloomberg, courtesy of Jamatsu here, has seen that a big budget Harry Potter game that will let players roleplay as wizards and roam a vast open world recreation of Hogwarts and its surrounding areas, reportedly launched for platforms including upcoming PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X late 2021. If you remember, this game was originally teased and actually leaked, kind of shown in 2018. That's October of 2018. So we did see it all the way back then. It was confirmed to be a real game in works with Warner Brothers. Now, one person said that's reportedly working on the game from Bloomberg that Rowling has very little direct involvement in the game. Now, that could be true, and obviously they are trying to remove themselves as much as possible from Rowling's recent statements, seen as many by transphobic as well. I, for one, am just really excited for the game. I love the Harry Potter world. I think it's really awesome what they did with Fantastic Beasts and where to find them. So to be actually in the Harry Potter world as an RPG sounds fantastic. I hope it's well done, of course. The gameplay had like a third person over the shoulder type shooting mechanic that you had with the wand. So it'll be interesting to see if they switch the gameplay. I mean, that was something like 2 years ago. PlayStation Plus games have been revealed for July. You see here, NBA 2K20, The Rise of the Tomb Raider 20-year Celebration Edition. And then we also have a bonus game, Erica. All sound really fantastic. Of course, on NBA 2K20 needs no explanation. Rise of the Tomb Raider 20-year Celebration reportedly includes all of the DLC. And then further down here, Erica, with two little asterisks there, seems really fantastic. I was actually really surprised by this. It's like a live action game where you're making decisions. Looks pretty well acted from what I've seen. Kind of a mystery thriller type of game. It starts out, your father is killed, and you go from there. So really, really interesting. In other news, games with gold also revealed for July. You'll see for Xbox, you get WRC8, Dunk Lords, Saints Row 2, and Juju, which was a 3D platformer. I haven't played most of these actually. Saints Row 2 I've played before, but all fun games. And then if you're looking into Xbox, you may be interested in their Game Pass. Well, there's been a lot of rumors with the Xbox Game Pass and other free Game Passes that they destroy sales. Well, according to this one developer, that is not true. So this is Mike Rose. He said on Twitter, "I cannot stress how incredible Xbox Game Pass has ended up being for Descenders. It's elevated the game to heights we couldn't have imagined. We also just signed a new Game Pass deal for the game, so it's going to be in Game Pass for a long time to come." He also continued, "If I take a month before we went into Game Pass and compared it to the sales of the game for the last week, we're now selling around 5 times as many units each week as pre-Game Pass on a weekly basis. Since we went into Game Pass, our total Xbox sales have tripled. Game Pass is good, yo." So this obviously is a positive for Game Pass or any games joining Game Pass. I'd be curious to see on bigger games in Game Pass, would it affect a title like Halo, or we saw Gears 5 go into Game Pass as well? Or does that just improve the actual exposure like we've seen with a lot of games, maybe on Twitch, improve the exposure and allow people to get into it, or even get into it at a later time that missed the initial launch window? I think overall it's really good for smaller games, and it seems really good for games that have passed their initial launch window to get a nice second or third wave of sales once they enter in Game Pass, or even something like a PlayStation Plus as well. Also, we have a new Ghost of Tsushima trailer called A Storm is Coming, so go ahead and check that out on YouTube. Very excited for Ghost of Tsushima coming up. Metroid developers hired a new Call of Duty programmer, so he's a Black Ops veteran. Going a little bit further down, Retro Studios have made a Call of Duty Black Ops veteran, Bhat Nanda Kumar, its latest major recruit as it continues to ramp up Metroid Prime 4 development. Nanda Kumar joined the Nintendo-owned studio in April as lead engineer, having most recently served as the same role for PC version of Call of Duty Black Ops 4. The Indian programmer has spent a decade at Activision, working across every Black Ops installment to date, and specializes in online tools gameplay programming. Most notably, Nanda Kumar helped create the theater mode in the original Black Ops, the first time a replay feature was featured in Call of Duty, and also led data instrumentation and analytics for Treyarch's recent titles. So awesome pickup for Retro Studios there. As we can see, Metroid Prime 4 is probably a long ways off again. It was completely scrapped and then rebooted in 2019. So we might not see that until very earliest, maybe beginning of 2022, end of 2021. I doubt it. It's probably still quite a few years off. So go ahead, look that up. Very excited. Hopefully Metroid Prime 4, they're obviously putting some talent on the project, so very exciting for that. Speaking of Call of Duty Warzone is getting a limited time 200-player battle royale playlist today. So if you didn't think there were enough players or enough time spent in Warzone, well, 200-player battle royale, go ahead and check that out. I'm sure those games will last super long, that coming courtesy of VGC again. And then we also have a new game coming from Ubisoft. So teased, Rod Broslow teased that Hyperscape coming from Ubisoft is a new codename Prisma Dimensions, which is actually a new AAA multiplayer fast-paced FPS battle royale from Ubisoft Montreal named Hyperscape. Go down a little bit further, we'll see a nice screen here. Sources: Hyperscape is a free-to-play battle royale FPS set in a futuristic virtual world for both PC and consoles, with console launch coming later this year, including crossplay. Hyperscape goes into closed beta next week, with an open beta and full launch of the game July 12th. Well, coming pretty quick there. You can go ahead and see, I guess, a teaser screen there. Also, we have another Twitter user saying again there's a Hyperscape game coming. This is Kevin Sebastian. And then a couple of screens from this gentleman as well. So pretty interesting. Again, free battle royale. Will it be better than Apex Legends? That's kind of the one to beat for the FPS games. All right, well, if you haven't yet, please like, follow, subscribe, comment down below. I appreciate everyone that's already doing that. A lot more amazing things coming. And then if you like, please share with your friends that might find this interesting. We're gonna head into one of our main stories here. We have Dr. Disrespect. So this has been a crazy thing to follow. Last week, at the end of last week, it was shown that Dr. Disrespect, one of the biggest Twitch streamers out there, he has been perma-banned from Twitch. Everyone was like, why? I'm sure we'll be getting a reason, or it will be revoked. If you've seen recently, there's been a lot of people coming out about the sexual misconduct or abuses that they experienced in the games industry. It was heavily rumored that that could be the reason, but so far there's been really no explanation. That's both from Twitch, Dr. Disrespect, his wife. So we're gonna go through kind of the news, talk about what it could be, and is this real? Is this gonna uphold? So I've been searching through kind of what could be happening. Number one, we know that he isn't arrested. Someone actually called his local sheriff's office, and he hasn't been arrested for anything. So there's nothing, I guess, that would be considered illegal that he's been doing that we know of, at least, that would be considered for him to be arrested. But we have seen that, number one, Twitch has not said anything official on the length, but there's been multiple reports claiming he has been permanently banned from the platform. Twitch didn't say anything official for his ban. So they said, quote, "As of our process, we take appropriate action when we have evidence that a streamer has acted in violation of our community guidelines or terms of service. These apply to all streamers regardless of status or prominence in the community." So that doesn't say anything. Dr. Disrespect, afterwards, this was probably a day and a half on Friday. He said, "Champions Club," that's his kind of his fan's name. "Twitch has not notified me on specific reasons to their decision. Firm handshakes to all the support during this difficult time, Dr. Disrespect." So from this article, Dr. Disrespect has also talked with a friend and fellow streamer, Tim the Tatman, although their conversation was off stream, but Tim the Tatman relayed the same message, which is that Dr. Disrespect did not know the reason he was banned. Also further down, Dr. Disrespect's wife responds to some of this. So she says, quote, "The outpouring of love, support, strength, and kindness from the arena has truly been overwhelming. You all have made my heart full, and I cannot thank you enough. No better out there than the CC, so Champions Clubs. You guys are amazing. Love you all." Now, I did see on a few other streamers that they talked about, Dr. Disrespect maybe being unfaithful to his wife, and her statement was actually the first one that I saw come out before his statement. So people were like, oh, maybe that he was unfaithful to his wife. The Champions Club is supporting her. Now, if that were the reason he was unfaithful and it wasn't any sort of, and that was it, he was with someone else and it was consensual, obviously not with his wife, but he was with someone else, and for him to get permanently banned from Twitch would be surprising to me, considering, obviously that's a very horrible thing to do, but to ruin his professional, for Twitch to cut ties with him entirely based off of that would be surprising, unless there were a major turn and his community would fully shut him out, and Twitch would be like, hey, you're not worth the advertising dollars. You're not worth the time we're putting into you. Absolutely not. But I have not seen anything since then to confirm that. Does this have to do with Twitch's sexual abuse bans? Again, they go on to say, no, we haven't really seen anything. The two things that we have seen that can kind of confirm that, yes, this is a permanent ban are right here. So Braslaw, who is a person who actually previously talked about Ubisoft's FPS game, we'll see right here. So he alleges he knows the reason, but he won't reveal it due to, quote, the importance and sensitivity around the subject. He also said, look, for several hours now, I have been told from credible sources the reason of Dr. Disrespect has been banned. However, due to the importance and sensitivity around the subject, I have refrained from going on it. I don't feel comfortable with it currently. Also, former Twitch staff member went ahead and tweeted, so her name is Shannon Z Killer, also said that she knew the reason why but wouldn't reveal it other than to say this is serious. She later deleted the tweet and said the reason why was, I totally get that it turns out people didn't want more confirmation that this is a permanent ban without a reason and felt the tweet was clout chasing. So I will respect people's perspectives and delete the tweet. So as we have seen, it is overall just confusing as to what's going on. We have seen that people said it's very serious. And the other confusing thing is that we can go a little bit further down here, his sponsors. So we have Dr. Disrespect sponsors Game Fuel and Razer initially removed their respective campaigns from their website and social media pages. Okay, so we see they removed their campaigns. This is serious. He's done for. We don't know what it is. I'm sure it will come to light soon. But those campaigns have now been relaunched, adding some additional confusion as to an already weird story. So as you can see here, this next screen, we see Razer, they took it down and then they put back up, that's Dr. Disrespect's logo right next to the Team Razer logo. So just super crazy and confusing. What exactly is this? We've gotten from several people that they have insiders, a former Twitch employee and then another insider that, hey, this is a serious thing. This is real. But Dr. Disrespect has no idea what it is. And he says he doesn't. His close friend says no, he doesn't know what it is. So really crazy. I'm sure it will come out shortly. If it is really as serious, I hope everyone involved, recovers. I will be reporting on this more and more as information comes out. I saw initially, I believe it was on Friday, the story. I saw, hey, there is a perma-ban on Dr. Disrespect. I was like, I wanted to wait to talk about this to see if anything more got reported. Really nothing did. All that we saw is a couple of statements from Dr. Disrespect and his wife that didn't really say much more, and then some people saying, man, this is serious, that seem to know what's going on the inner workings of Twitch and maybe some other sources. And then this actual reverse. First he wasn't taken off, or first he was taken off the sponsors, but now he isn't. That's just even more confusing. I wanted to wait to report on it, and it seems even more confusing than when it initially happened. So as more information comes out, I definitely will be reporting on it. All right, we're gonna move on to Microsoft. So Microsoft plans for Xbox Lockhart model in August. It was rumored, according to Jeff Grubb, and Jeff Grubb wrote this article as well, it was rumored that we would be seeing it in July before the whole pandemic thing happened, but now we're going to be seeing it in August. Now, reminder that August is the rumored date that we will be seeing the prices for the next gen consoles as well. That includes the Series X and of course the PlayStation 5. Now, the Lockhart is a rumored cheaper model for the Xbox, and it's supposed to be right around the actual power of the Xbox One X, as is naming conventions weren't weird enough. The Xbox One X is supposed to be a little bit more powerful than that, but because of it, it's going to be much cheaper. People saying anywhere from like a $200 price point. $200 would just be insanity. Could they do it? Yeah, they could, but it'd be just crazy. Now, who's excited for it? Well, PlayStation and Xbox have been going head to head, of course. I have surmised that PlayStation has had a massive leap since they last revealed their stuff, and Mark Cerny's talk, it was initially very confusing, but as it got broken down by sources, by Digital Foundry, by the Cherno, who you should go check it on YouTube, we have seen that there's actually a lot more to the PlayStation 5 than initially thought. In the architecture, devs are just loving it. So I was curious to see the PS5 versus the Series X or the Xbox. Do devs really prefer one or the other? And we saw today, again, from Epic Games, it is, quote, a masterpiece in design and system design. So this is coming from the Games Post. It's a PlayStation 5. PlayStation is officially revealed earlier this month. The console design itself is very unique. It goes down a little bit further. The VP of Engineering of Epic Games, Nick Penwarden, so we've heard from him before about PlayStation 5, comments on the PS5's console and calls it a masterpiece of system design. So the full quote here, the PS5 is a masterpiece of system design. Not only is it driving a huge leap in computing and graphics performance, but is also revolutionary in terms of storage and data compression technology, unlocking new kinds of games experiences for players to enjoy. So again, it has that architecture where it has the actual decompressors built in. They are a separate chip from the CPU. Normally the CPU would be doing the decompression. Now this is supposed to be like something like 7 or 9 Zen 2 cores doing the decompression. This decompressor chip can do it that quickly. Of course, it has its own SSD, its own IO. It has all these things that have been said to be amazing. Now, Sony can say this till they're blue in the face, and that's cool. Does it really mean anything? Not really. But what we're really looking forward is devs, and in particular, third-party devs. Do they really love it as much as it seems to be loved from them? And all we know is the specs and the general design, and the rest we have to go off is the devs. So I will remind you a few other things devs have said both about the Xbox and the PlayStation. And again, so far the PlayStation seems like way out ahead times 10. So this is Tim Sweeney. He's the CEO over at Epic. He says, quote, the hardware that Sony is launching is absolutely phenomenal. Not only an unprecedented amount of graphics power, but also a completely new storage architecture that blows past architectures out of the water and is far ahead of the state-of-art highest end PCs you can buy. There is a whole bunch of controversy about that particular comment. Even Linus from Linus Tech Tips came after Tim Sweeney about it, and Linus himself ended up making a full apology video about it because he was like, man, I was totally wrong. Again, more praise for the PlayStation 5 over here. Andrea Pacino. So this is the developer for the Order 1886. Remember, that studio was just bought by Facebook to make some VR games, so they are no longer affiliated with PlayStation at all as of last week. So dollar bet, within a year from its launch, gamers will fully appreciate the PS5 is one of the most revolutionary inspired home consoles ever designed, and will feel silly for having spent energy arguing about teraflops when similarly misunderstood specs. So Again, more PS5 news. This is coming from Push Square, Crytek developer. Now this one is really interesting because the Crytek developer retracted the statement afterwards, stating quote personal reasons. Now this was actually translated, I guess, from Persian. Just before we get into it, this is coming from Push Square article. Things got weird. Ali Salih, hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly, the developer who made these comments about PS5 has apparently retracted his statements. The interview itself was seemingly pulled offline too, so maybe these were things he weren't supposed to be saying. I mean, Crytek again is a third party. They don't want to mess with any relationships, so that's most likely what's happened. So this is the actual quote from him. When asked how the two next-gen consoles compare, he says that other devs are claiming the PS5 is the easiest console they have ever coded on to reach its peak performance. He goes on to say that he thinks PS5 is, quote, extremely simple and has so many abilities that make the devs so free. He concludes by stating the PS5 is, quote, a better console than the Xbox Series X. He also praises the PS5 for its ultra-fast SSD. He explains that the Series X quick resume feature, which lets you put multiple games into suspended state and switch between them in a few seconds, could be achieved on PS5 in under 1 second. He asked which of the two consoles he personally prefers to work with. Salih confidently says PS5 without a moment of hesitation. He adds, as a programmer, I say the PS5 is much better, and I don't think you can find a programmer that would name one advantage the Xbox Series X has over the PS5. So we saw that earlier. I mean, those are really strong words. Of course, might have gotten him in trouble with his company Crytek, so that's probably why he redacted it afterwards. But that's just one developer. If it weren't all these people saying it, I wouldn't even be reporting on it. So again, this is coming from Jeffrey Grubb, again, reporter at VentureBeat. We just saw his stuff 2 seconds ago. He says this is true. Lots fawning over work that Cerny did. I think part of this is the PS5 dev kits got out earlier, and Cerny did a lot of work highlighting the efforts, but still, devs seem gaga over it. He's obviously an insider. He knows a lot of people. Okay, Matt, what about the Xbox Series X? This is an ex-Sony developer talking about the Xbox Series X. So this is a developer that used to work for Gorilla. His name is Chris Granell. Now I looked him up. He no longer is developing games. He actually has like his own kind of sports company. So keep that in mind. He probably does not have either one of the actual consoles in his possession that he's working with. But this was after the specs were revealed. So he says, quote, the PS5 is not a bad console. It's an absolute beast of a piece of hardware. Granell said on the RDX podcast. But it's just a piece of hardware which is slower on numerous kinds of paths than Microsoft has put together. It's coming from Tom's Guide. We go a little bit further down, and we see kind of an immediate backpat from a co-creator of Halo. Halo's co-creator Marcus Lito praised the PS5's SSD despite developing a game series that has long been on Xbox. He says it will open doors for the expansive content that can stream a lot faster. Players won't be waiting to load screens and won't have to hide loading behind cinematics and that kind of thing. It will just make things a lot more seamless and fluid for the player when it comes to their experience on their consoles. So again, we saw praise followed up immediately from Halo creator that had praise for the PS5. Again, Scorn creator commenting on the Xbox Series X. His full quote here is coming from WindowsCentral.com. Everyone is touting the SSD as the next big thing, and yes, the SSDs will help a lot with loading and moving assets. But the biggest culprit in creating problems in the current generation is the CPU. That's when the biggest next-gen difference compared to the current generation will come from. We didn't want to bring Scorn to the current generation console because we want our game to be played at 60 FPS. That would be close to impossible without big sacrifices. Next gen is about responsiveness, smoothness, and a lot less time wasting. The problem that these features is that they are not easy to sell in videos or screenshots. Microsoft has some messaging problems. People expected multi-million-dollar AAA production games to show off next gen visuals and most importantly, gameplay showcases. So he's talking about the Series X. It has a better CPU than the PS5. He had also said that, this was possible specifically on the Series X. So that's some praise for the Series X, and specifically the CPU is a little bit better than I believe the PS5 is. And then we also see from course developers, I've got to say the transition coming from Xbox One to the Series X was straightforward. You have way more freedom. You don't have to worry about the frame rate as much. You can instead crank it up to higher frame rate. In the end, it's easier to develop for the Series X, Xbox Series X than any other console. And then lastly, we're going to finish off with Jason Schreier. Of course, he's a reporter formerly of Kotaku, now of Bloomberg. He has a ton of insiders that he knows. I'm just going to read this entire quote. This is from WCC Tech or WCCFtech.com. He had a full, big, long interview, and I think this is really important. So Schreier commented during the podcast, and Sony dropped the ball hard in terms of communication. This is referring to their earlier Mark Cerny event. He says everybody is now seeing the spec sheet and they see the PS5 10.2 teraflops and the Xbox Series X 12 teraflops. But meanwhile, the people that I've been talking over the past few months, over the past couple of years, who are actually working on the PS5 have pretty much unanimously all said that this thing is a beast. It is one of those things, the coolest pieces of hardware that we've ever seen or used before. There are so many things that are here that are revolutionary. The general consensus is that these things are both extremely powerful and both very similar in a lot of ways, both do different things in really cool ways. These are both extremely impressive pieces of technology, but because of that Sony was actually presented and marketed this thing, now the narrative is that Xbox Series X is way more powerful than the PS5, and I think that might be a fatal flaw in Sony's part in the console generation. Now, side note, I think that has changed back to the actual questioning here. So maybe it's all been forgotten if the PS5 comes in cheaper as a killer launch line app, but right now it's just such a dropping the ball after so many years of smart decision on Sony's part. What I'm hearing from people who actually working on these things, working on the metal, is that the Series X is not significantly more powerful than the PS5 despite the teraflops number. Sony has dropped the ball. There's going to be like weeks and weeks, if not months and months, especially with Corona disrupting everything, of people just talking about how Xbox Series X is a more powerful console and is beating the PS5 in every single way. Meanwhile, I'm getting text and DMs even today that this was going on from developers being like, this is such a shame. The PS5 is so superior in all these other ways, and they've not actually been able to message right now or can't talk about it right now. I've heard from at least 3 different people in the past couple of hours since the Cerny talk began, like the PS5 is actually like the more superior piece of hardware in a lot of different ways, despite what you're seeing in these paper spec sheets. And so again, yes, plenty of room to talk about this for these companies to keep messaging, showing games. But I do not think that Sony has really, but I do think that Sony has really dropped the ball so far from what we've seen. So again, man, I mean, there's just endless dev support for the PS5. We've seen some support. I mean, I've tried to look for it for the Series X. There's just less, maybe because there's less owned, owned developers from the Series X side. They have about 15 developers they work for. But a lot of this stuff, we've seen from like Jeff Grubb, we saw from Jason Schreier that developers, third-party developers that have been in the game for a very long time, the PS5 is this unique piece of hardware that could, according to Tim Sweeney, even change how PC hardware is made. It sounds amazing. It sounds like they're both going to come in at a good price. They're going to be an amazing value, especially if you're looking to upgrade your PC. I mean, just wait till these are out. Wait till the kind of next generation of PC stuff is launched. 2020, end of 2020, 2021. So go ahead and check that out. But either way, sounds amazing. At the end of the day, it's going to come down to the games and what is unique on each platform. That's what I think anyways. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. This has been Chatty with Matty, your source for the daily gaming news. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I'll be recovering the whole week as well, especially on Friday, and some more great stuff coming for you. Remember, follow me on the 3Ts and IG, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, and of course, Instagram. And have a wonderful day.
Be yourself.
And eat a cookie. Bye.